Hello audience. In this audio article, I am going to narrate an editorial which was published in the Financial Express on the opinion page on 21st of March 2023. And its headline is Learning from the SVB Crisis. As we are all aware that SVB bank crisis was held in the US that impacted the global world as well. And some other banks followed the same path. So let's understand. Here it begins. The US Federal Reserve Fed cut rates by 150 BPS in early 2020 and pumped trillions of dollars to support the economy during the COVID crisis. The after effect of the ultra loose fiscal monetary policy was reflected in the elevated inflation from early 2021. The Fed termed the rise of inflation as transitory. In early 2022, the Fed raised rates at the fastest pace in its history to curtail inflation and regain credibility, though it didn't cut its balance sheet meaningfully to remove the liquidity, which was the underlying cause of elevated inflation. The Fed was doing delicate balancing, hoping that higher rates would check inflation and excess liquidity would support growth. This strategy could have been sustained had there been no accidents. Unfortunately, the SVB crisis opened a Pandora box. SVB has the 16th largest bank in the US, having a geographic contradiction in Silicon Valley with an industry-wide concentration almost startups. It had the highest deposits growth among the US banks during the low interest days of 2020 and 2021. 97% of deposits were wholesale, that is over $250,000 outside the FDIC deposit insurance cap. It had a high ESG ranking based on the restrictive lending policy. SVB invested for average 45% of its balance sheet in long duration mortgage-backed securities, that is MBS, to earn a higher return than its cost of deposits. The Fed startup U-turn in mid-2022 from inflation in transitory to rates being higher for longer pushed the SVB MBS portfolio into losses. Every rate hike by the Fed kept increasing the losses, though they were not accounted for being part of the held to maturity, that is HTM portfolio. They just had to survive the negative carry as the yield of MBS was lower than their deposit cost. This was possible till such time deposits kept flowing. Depositors of SVB with startups started withdrawing deposits as they needed to fund losses and could not raise capital from their sponsors. SVB had to sell securities and book losses to meet deposit outflows. The senior management of SVB sold their holdings under a trading plan, probably resulting in accelerated flows from the savvy depositors. SVB announced a capital raise of $2 billion but found no takers. As the word spread about losses and higher liquidity, deposits outflow accelerated. FDIC had to take SVB into receivership to stop panic. The US Treasury, Fed, and FDIC stitched a rescue package by guaranteeing all deposits to stop the panic among small bank deposit holders. The trinity was probably driven by the experience of 2008 subprime crisis. The HTM portfolio loses a loss of over $650 million in US banks. Signature Bank and First Republic Bank followed SVB, keeping all three busy. Will there be more SVB in the US? The answer is a resounding yes. Most part of the US banking system are optional to follow Basel III prudential norms. The US exempted banks with less than $250 billion in deposit from the Dodd-Frank Act provisions in 2018. In essence, many banks like SVB in the US optionally follow prudential norms like liquidity coverage ratio, a cap of HTM portfolio as a percentage of balance sheet, and net stable funding ratio. The Fed Treasury and FDIC will work overtime in the days to come to ensure that SVB does not become a contagion like 2008 subprime crisis. Of course, they wouldn't mind losing the war on inflation, seeing that inflation persists a little above the target of 2% and growth a mild recession in 2023. Still, they will hope to win the battle of keeping intact the depositors' and investors' trust in the US financial system. What are the chances of SVB happening in India? The answer is very remote. Despite ILFS, DHFL, and Yes Bank, which were credit governance issues, RBI has proactively prescribed prudential norms like liquidity coverage ratio and cap on the HTM portfolio. Banks have excellent assets liability framework. More importantly, the mark-to-market loss on the HTM portfolio is a tiny percentage of net worth and well covered by FY23 profit before tax. Banks also diversified CASA and deposit base across geographies and industries. Banks also have a good balance between retail and wholesale deposits. Implicit sovereign guarantee also gives the confidence to deposit holders. We do have a chink in our armour in the form of unregulated entities like collective investment schemes. More than 1.8 crore Indians have lost more than 2 trillion in Ponzi schemes, from plantation to gold across India. Our poorly regulated entities like cooperative banks, that is PMC Bank. Will our economy and markets suffer from the US and European banking crisis like the 2008 subprime crisis? In the market, one can never say never. But hopefully, investors have learned from the 2008 subprime crisis panic. Hence, the impact will be temporary and transitory, and the correction, if any, will be the excellent opportunity for the long-term investors. That was it on the audience. And this audio article, we will meet in next article. Please leave us feedback.